All right, New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's, everybody. Today we are going to talk about, I'm a little fed up of this thing. BOI is back on, okay? It's off, it's on, it's off, it's on. Make up your damn mind, government. It's back on, so you got to, I don't know, disclose all your stuff to the whole government, and there's no privacy anymore. And so we'll talk about that and what happened and why, because I honestly didn't know. I just heard about it today when Greg mentioned it to me before filming, and I had already filed all my stuff, so I was like, whatever. Um, and then we're going to talk about some rulings. It seems like the FTC was, been pretty active over the holiday, and they passed some stuff that is on just fees, and specifically fees charged by a lot of the travel industry. So we'll cover that. Lots going on, and of course, please have a safe, happy New Year's. Please have a safe time tonight. Don't go out and do some things Greg and I wouldn't do. Well, don't go out and do something I wouldn't do. I don't know about Greg. He's a bit of a party animal. So Greg, Mr. Greg Christiansen, how are you? How's your holidays been so far?
It's good. You're a workhorse, though. We have to do this in the middle of the holidays. I mean, like, no time. My wife was not happy. No, she's fine.
I think your wife's completely used to you not working during holidays.
No,
Um,
she knows the deal. I'm always working.
yeah, so just so everyone knows, we're filming this obviously post Christmas. So Merry Christmas to anyone who celebrates, and we don't try to film too many episodes too far in advance because we like to kind of keep it real with what's going on. So Greg, what is going on with BOI? Like now it's back on. We literally just a few weeks ago I think it was Texas federal court killed it, and now we're back onto it. So tell us
So,
the background there.
first part of December, the federal district court in Texas made a ruling that, now remember, this is a Corporate Transparency Act, is what we're talking about. For those of you who
Yep.
don't remember, we haven't watched any of our previous on this, but um, January 1st, 2024, the Corporate Transparency Act, which was enacted actually in 2022, came into full force and effect. The act requires a couple of things. Number one, for any businesses established in 2024, you have 60 days to file what's called a BOI report, a beneficial ownership interest or information report. BOI is just, having an individual who's responsible for the organization being set up. Now, the rule and the act comes in some very strict penalties if you don't follow it. If you fail to follow the requirements, then it starts accruing fines at $500 per day as a violation. The idea or concept behind the Corporate Transparency Act was to encourage the transparency of who owns businesses to reduce on terrorism and organized crime. The rule also had a secondary issue, not just when you set up businesses in 2024, but if you had a pre-existing business prior to 2024, you'd have until January or December 31st, 2024 to file a BOI report for any existing businesses. So the Chamber of Commerce in Texas challenged this, and it went to the U.S. Federal District Court, which earlier this month made a ruling that the BOI was not constitutional, was unenforceable, overbroad, vague, etc. That the penalty provisions outlined in the Corporate Transparency Act were too extreme. And so they said, we're going to issue an injunction stating that you don't have to follow the BOI or file a beneficial ownership information report. So the government, the Department of Justice, they scrambled, filed motions to go in front of the Fifth Circuit. So if you're not familiar, district courts or trial courts, here's evidence. District courts are a panel of judges that hear cases on appeal. The circuits govern many different states, where a federal district court is generally located in one state or a portion of one state. And so that went up to this panel. The Fifth Circuit heard it on expedited. And so this week on the 23rd, so Monday, they made a ruling stating that no, BOI is enforceable, is constitutional, and businesses you have until December 31st to file your report. The FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, came out on Tuesday on the 24th and said, we're going to give people until the 13th of January to file this. So what's going to happen next on this? It's going to be appealed. The question will be whether or not the U.S. Supreme Court takes this up. If they do, they'll, new cases start occurring in April of next year. They accept it on cert, which is a request on appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, then they may consider what the constitutional nature of it. That's one element. The other element is whether or not Congress and the Senate and President Trump decide to modify the law or repeal it and then go back to not requiring it. So there's a lot of things that are still in play with this. I personally, I'm okay with transparency. I'm okay with not having organized crime or terrorism. I think that's what the Homeland Security Act was supposed to do. Having another act to do this when it overrides what the state's authorities are with how you report information, and especially the penalties per day, I think is a little bit much. So we'll find out. It's as the days of our lives, we will find out what happens next year with the Corporate Transparency Act and the BOI reports. But that's where we're right now.
And I personally don't have anything to hide, so I filed everything. By all means, the government is welcome to that information.
If it was, yeah, I mean, I get what it is, and I'll tell you why. From a practical effect, the reason why they want to have something like this is you used to could go ahead and set up a parent company, get an EIN for that parent company, and then get EINs, employer identification numbers for all the subsidiaries. And then what people would do is just let that parent company just dissolve. So once that's done, it's like, who do we follow? How do we figure out where we're supposed to get paid for taxes, who owns it, or anything else? We have no idea. I mean, nobody would know. So about 5 or 6 years ago, practically the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, said, no, we're not going to allow that anymore. You have to use and attach to it an individual social security number, which is great, fine, if that's legitimate. And they, generally you have to have, their software works pretty good when you're filing for an EIN. That if you put the wrong number in it without the name and the number don't match, then it's wrong. But people got savvy, and what they did is they go to their friends and neighbors and family members and use them to get the business set up and get the EIN, and then the business would be transferred to somebody else. Again, creates an issue of like, who really owns this business? So I understand the concept behind it. I just think there's a better way to do it than fight. What if you set up a business 10 years ago and you forgot? If it's in a state that you don't have to do annual renewals, is it $500 a day because of business you failed to remember? That's not really what, I mean, it seems like an overbroad way of trying to get it. It's what the law is. I've been setting it up and doing it for my clients all year. We stopped when the injunction, but we collected all the data because we didn't know what the circuit court was going to do. And now that they've ruled, I already informed my staff on Monday to go up and get all the backlogged entities were created over the last couple of weeks filed. So we'll be able to meet the December 31st deadline, no problem. But it's something you should be concerned about if you haven't done it. It's serious. I mean, the government can come after you. You can do it yourself. I can give you instructions on how to do it, or you can hire a firm to help you do it. There's a lot of firms that are out there that help.
We ended up doing it ourselves. It was pretty straightforward. So,
Yeah,
but I do want to go back and check, because the thing that I'm worried about is a lot of times we have these like little companies that we've set up that we're not doing anything with, like little holding companies or whatever, or we had an idea, we set up a company. And I just want to go make sure that if there's like a holding company for one of my real estates, make sure that we file for that as well, because you have to. So if you're watching this, get on top of it, get it done. If you need help, guardianlaw.com, go ahead and reach out to Greg's team and they'll help you get it done. Pivoting, because you mentioned Supreme Court, made me think about this. It's a great topic to talk about. It's not necessarily compliance.
Yes.
TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think is going to happen with TikTok? Do you think it's going to get banned? So I'm pretty sure the Supreme Court's going to take the case. I'd be really shocked if they don't. This is a pretty big, monumental thing. But it's been like I'm just not willing to believe it. I'm like, it's bullshit. It's not going to get shut down or banned from the United States. What is your thought on this?
I mean, the reason there's a lot of momentum against TikTok right now, and the surveillances and the stuff you agree to their terms and conditions on their websites and stuff. I don't know. I mean, here's what I think could happen. CNN had a report just this month that talked about how it's inching closer. I don't know how much any of the national media knows more than we do, to be honest. But
Yeah.
they had an article that basically said that it's inching towards it, that there was the U.S. Court of Appeals upheld a law that was prohibiting TikTok. So there's some rulings that are on that have come through. The U.S. Supreme Court's probably it's going to go to the circuit court and the U.S. Supreme Court, and it's going to determine the safety. It'll be a safety issue. I think that what I've heard, the scuttlebutt around it, is that they're trying to find some U.S. investors to buy it.
Hmm.
They'll just run it here. And then some of the arguments about control and operation will be eliminated, which will allow the platform to remain.
Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen.
I think
the Supreme Court's going to take the case. I think they're going to stay the order. I think that'll buy a few months for Trump to come in and for there to be a acquisition of TikTok into a U.S. company.
I think so. I think
I just can't imagine it disappearing.
Well, and I see a whole bunch of potential for U.S. companies to go and buy it.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to have.
Well, Greg, you and I, we got 550 followers on our Don't Say That TikTok. All right?
Yes. And those followers raise the money to buy parent TikTok.
Yeah, this is detrimental to us and our brand. 550 of you, come follow us on YouTube, all right?
Well, TikTok says that they've got 170 million subscriptions right now. So it's a big business. I mean,
it's 170 million active U.S. users.
Yeah.
So it's literally half of the United States population. I mean, I'll tell you, the people that use TikTok the most in my family isn't even me. It's my mom and dad. And they're 80. And they're on TikTok all the time. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I personally think someone buys it out. And I don't think you take an asset this big, this valuable, and just toss it in the garbage. I can't see that happening. All right. Next topic that we're going to talk about was these hidden fees. Rapid fire today. These hidden fees. What's happening with the hidden fees, and what is that all about, and who does it impact, and who can I sue because of it?
Just a week ago, on the 17th of December, the FTC came out with another press release, and they about this bipartisan junk fees rule that they're implementing, that it's going to go into effect next year. So you've all seen it when you go log in to get an Airbnb, short-term rental, even to an overnight stay of any kind. Hilton, Marriott, I don't care, buy it. You'll see the price, but then you go and you check out, and it's significantly more than what you thought what it was advertised. So the FTC is proposing and implementing a bipartisan rule against hidden junk fees. So you're going to see some major crackdowns that are going to happen in 2025 over junk fees. It's the same thing with tickets. Like, I just bought, over the holidays, I bought some Nate Bargatze. He's my new favorite comedian right now. Super funny. If you guys haven't seen him, he's just kills me. He's been on SNL and all bunch of things. But we've been following him for like 7 years, like way before he got famous. But go and check out. It's like $50 per ticket for a convenience fee. I'm like, what do you mean convenience for what? So it's not listed at all when you purchase on all. That's going to get cracked down on this rule. When I bought the tickets, I actually leaned over to my wife, and I'm not always a prophet, but sometimes I am. In a couple of cases, the FTC's brought up, like, they're going to get sued for this, and the company got sued for it. I have a feeling that, like, these ticket masters and StubHubs, all of those, when you go out and you check out and you think, oh, you're buying a ticket for $100 and you end up paying $150, and you're like, wait, where did that happen?
Yeah.
It's not.
I was I don't know where I was. I was buying something. It was like a ticket or a show or a dinner. I don't remember what it was. It was not long ago. It was a month ago. And on the checkout, the price went up by a lot. But I was skimming it, looking, and it said mandatory fee. That was the name of it. And I was just like, for what?
For what?
And if it's mandatory, why don't you just put it in the price? But like, mandatory fee, and it was just a random fee. Now, you've got this new thing that's happening at restaurants too, and I hope it gets hit up. At restaurants, you'll see, I ended up paying a employee, employee mental health something. And I looked at it, it accounted to 6% of my bill. And I was sitting there laughing. I'm like, why don't you pay for your employee's mental health plan? Like, why am I paying for that as a customer? So like you get your bill and that was never there, right? Like I'm ordering the food. It's $20, $30, $40. Expensive restaurant actually. It was like $50 per meal. And then all of a sudden you just get like this thing, this additional thing that you can't like ask them to remove. I've seen it a lot more now, with like especially in tipping cultures getting out of hand. I was
Culture.
checking out of an e-commerce store for like some toys for my daughter for Christmas shopping, and it was like tip our staff. What the I'm buying a toy, you're shipping it to me, And so it's been getting a little bit out of hand. So I'm actually with the FTC on this one. I think that if you
So
want to charge fees, go ahead, charge until you're blue in the face, but
let me
put
go
them
through.
in the main price.
Let me go through the 5 elements of the rule that goes in effect in 120 days, just so everybody knows. So it's not going to be January 1st, but it was announced on the 1st of December. It's going to go into effect, second quarter 2025.
But that means the
Yeah,
FTC can't like come and sue Ticketmaster and StubHub and stuff for what they're doing right now, right? They just have to stop doing it by that date.
by that
Okay.
date.
All right.
So number one, business selling live event tickets and short-term lodgings are covered by the new rules. So everything I just mentioned about those organizations, and I'm not just picking on them. I mean, every ticket broker dealer does these type of fees. So they've got to do it. Airbnb, VBRO, all of that's going to have to come into compliance. So a couple of things in there. Hidden fees are prohibited. So you have to disclose the total price, including fees up front. So when you click on something, it's the total price, not the add-ons. Um, let's see here. There are some exceptions for that have to do with, like when there are variants that are legitimate. Misleading fees are prohibited. So you can't go in there and say, hey, this is no fees. And then when they get into checkout, it does show the full price, but it says this is the fees. So it can't be misleading on it. So no hidden, no misleading fees. Fees can be disclosed. Certain fees can be disclosed after the transaction if they can't determine until later. For example, you're buying something that's going to be mailed to you, and until you get through the checkout, you don't know its estimated shipping costs or taxes, right? So those that's okay with that, right? Now, here's a big one for all of us. Business to business transactions are covered too. So if I go in, you're buying something for a sponsorship or something for your business, it's between the two businesses. Doesn't matter if it's a business that's buying from you or not. It's still covered under this new hidden fees rule, junk fees rule that's being implemented by the FTC. So something to be concerned about, for sure. Got to make sure that you're upfront. Now, where is this going to come into as well? Got to make sure you're not fee stacking, right? So that it doesn't seem like you're building it up for something that it's not.
Yeah.
So you can make sure that you can think, oh, Greg, I'll just come in and we'll just go ahead and say it's way more than what it is, and then we'll reduce it. Now they've got a built-in element for that too. So because they foresee that's what companies will do. They'll jack up the prices and then they'll say, oh, but you can get it for this amount, right? So you got to make sure that both sides of that.
How do you see this being applied like in our world, the info world, the coaches world? Do you see hidden fees in the coaching world? Because I can't think of an example when I would have even thought of doing it. But
I think the negative option's the biggest that I see the hidden fees in. When I see it the most, the subscriptions. When people go in there and they think they're going to get in there for $7 a month, but really it's $99 a month or $95, whatever it is. That's where I see it the most. It's like an interplay between this and Rosca. That they're not giving proper disclosures as to what the monthly continuities are going to be when somebody signs up for it or how to cancel. I just reviewed a continuity last week. Total hidden fees. You thought, I read it and I was like, I think I'm buying this for like $7, but you have to read the fine print to know it's $24. And I could see that is hidden. And they called it as service processing fees. What they said it. It was like $7 for the subscription. It was like $20 for the service processing. So yeah, I can see it. I can see people using this rule and using it poorly.
Okay. All right, we're gonna keep it short. No one wants to listen to us talk about legal crap today. It's New Year's, so go out, enjoy yourselves, file your BOI stuff, guys. You have the grace of the government that gave you 13 more days from the day you're hearing this right now. Because I was realizing it when Greg said 31st. I'm like, it isn't the 31st today, the day that this releases. So you have until Jan 13th. Get that thing filed, otherwise you're paying $500 a day for no reason. Let me just tell you something. It's not fun to get legal notices from the government. As a matter of fact, I walked into the office today. There was a FedEx package there. I told you guys I'm not a big fan of FedEx packages, although I've gotten better. So I looked at it and kind of chuckled. So what's that? And of course, at the top it said from the law offices of. I'm like,
I'm sorry. It was early. It was
yeah, I know. Luckily, it was forwarded mail from the past for a different person. It had nothing to do with me. But let me just say, you don't want to get one of those notices saying that you owe the government money because you didn't file this thing. And I can only tell you, I can only imagine how many people are not going to file it. I mean, the government's about to just like have a field day with this because people just don't pay attention.
I just don't know how they enforce it. I mean, there's going to be so many people. How do they go and enforce this? But okay.
Well, you know, we could have a separate conversation about that.
Yeah,
but all right, everyone, be safe. Love you guys. Get the book. Join us inside of Compliant Marketing Academy. We've been doing great. And by the way, if you haven't been seeing ads about the book, a few people have asked me, like, hey, where'd the ads go? It was the holidays, man. It was crazy. I wasn't trying to bid up. The book is $7, all right? There's only so much I can spend on ads promoting a $7 book. I'm not trying to compete with Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, and like every other political campaign. There was like 4,000 political campaigns in the country. And then we had Black Friday, and then we had Christmas. So I was just like, we're just going to sit this one out. But they're all gone now, and it's our time now, baby. So you'll see the ads again. We'll be haunting you. And we are still working on our next book, wink, wink, hoping for April release of that as well. Should be fun. All right, everybody. Love you guys. Have a great and safe New Year's. We'll see you in 2025. How crazy is that? Greg, have a great New Year's today. Bye, everyone.